we have a spare anchor and some anchor rod. And so this is a second anchor. It's always good to have a couple anchors, and the second anchor on this boat is no good, really. Let me turn all these fans off so you can hear me. All right. Anyways, the big anchor we have on the front, I might replace it with even it's not a heavier, but it's a bigger anchor that I have. And that anchor is a second anchor because the one that's under that settee right there is just kind of terrible, and the line's no good. It's almost like the anchor that was put on there was just so it could have a second anchor, but it could never really be used. So that new anchor is going to actually be a usable anchor for a second anchor, whether it's on shore or to pull us off of something, or in a current having an anchor. And it has 80 feet of rode, I think maybe 75 feet of rode and 15 feet of chain. And then I made a nice 25 foot line just to have an extra line. You know, you stop places you need to tie up and whatnot. Why am I getting our Garmin out when we're not sailing anywhere today? Because I'm going to hook it up to talk about our voltage draw. And the main reason we're here today is because we have a new solar controller. I decided against using this solar controller due to its bad reviews, so I got a different controller, but more on that later. And some connections for the battery, and a 100 watt solar panel. This is a 100 watts flexible solar panel, and by flexible it doesn't mean you can bend it all in crazy ways, you know, a little tiny bit here and there. You don't want to go bending it at a big angle. I don't even need a solar panel in general. When we go out for a day or two or overnight, we have our house battery, and that's the battery we use for lights and everything else. And then we have our starter battery, so that we turn our battery knob here, our selector, to house when we're out, so that we're only using house power. And then you know, we keep the other starter battery full to start the engine, so we don't wear that battery out. And so for day sailing, you don't need anything more than that. We could sail all day on our autopilot and have our lights on and everything else, and we still have plenty of voltage left in our battery. The problem is going to come in is when we take longer trips, and if we sail all day and then all night with our autopilot on, the autopilot, the chart plotter, the lights in here, by the time we wake up the next morning, we're going to have a lot less voltage than would be nice, you know, than we really want. We do need it so that we can keep the battery full and be able to have enough battery to use the autopilot for a second night in a row, so that hopefully that day not only can it run everything, but it can also charge up, or while we're on anchor, charge faster while we're resting or stopping. So I want to just hook it up kind of on the side of the boat, just kind of in the sun. Maybe it won't even be its full wattage. Hook it to the battery, turn everything on, and just kind of see where we're at. Well, right now, if I turn off our battery charger and our AC main, and I come over here, I can see that we're pulling about 9 watts right now. And if I turn on the chart plotter, is it coming on out there? Yep, there it is, Garmin. Okay, 14 watts. But the big thing too is the refrigerator. Look at this, refrigeration. Watch the wattage there in the corner. 21 watts, 32, 46, 52, 60, 67, 65. So, I mean, of course, that's with everything else on also. But what that means is we're not, you know, if we had that solar panel on a nice sunny day and we were anchored at an island hanging out, we could have the refrigerator on and power it, because it's a 100 watt solar panel. So let's hook it all up and just see what that thing says after we hook it up. Okay, it's hooked to the battery, and it says 12.6 on this. So let's go hook these to the solar panel. And then our battery meter over there will show what's happening. Alright, I'm gonna look at the instructions. 12.9 volts. Well, let's turn everything off and see what we're getting back in. Lights. And we're getting 39 watts. Plus 3 amps at 39 watts. Autopilot, or chart plotter. Autopilot outlets, VHF fan, radio. I'm still adding 22 watts with all that on. We're at 16, we're up to 22. We're at 15 to 22 watts, or 1.4 amps. And that's with everything on. So now the refrigerator's not on, but everything we would have on during our sailing day is on right now. And we're adding 19 watts, or 1.4 amps. So I'm going to go out and turn the autopilot on. Now I have everything turned off except for the refrigerator. And look at that, we're right at 0 or 1 watt. Look at that, we're even. So the solar panel it was 0.5. We're adding, and so it's just between adding and subtracting, but we're basically running the refrigerator only on the solar panel. I mean, it's running off the battery, but we're not losing or charging. We're about even. And, you know, it would be okay to lose a little too. So if we want to have the refrigerator on for 2 hours in the afternoon to re-chill our food and then turn it back off, with this thing, we're golden. So that's good. I mean, it shows me that 17, look at that, we're plus 17 watts right now. So we're going to be able to sail along and run everything we run without using battery and just adding a little bit. So that's really good. And we can always start the engine and charge the batteries with the alternator if we want. But that way, let's turn some cabin lights on. That way we're going to be fine. So if we want to take a trip and use that solar panel, we're good. That's all you really need for a boat like this. You're not going to take a O'Day 28 around the world and need a whole solar setup and everything. So this is good. So the next thing to do is to head up top and kind of see where I might be able to mount this. I'm going to try a couple different locations, but this is where I've seen it a lot of times, just on top of the bimini top. It's pretty informal, but you can run cord through the mounting holes and tie it to the bimini top on the corners. And it must just work pretty well. I see this a lot. But where to run the cables and how to get them through the boat, that's something I still have to figure out. This location might also be nice because our bimini top's not very waterproof anymore, and this might keep some of the water from dripping right there. But I also wonder if maybe on top of the spray shield here might work, or if it's too curvy. But ultimately, as I looked at it, I can't really see a place to tie it on to the spray shield, and I don't really like the way it looks. So I think on top the bimini top is my final choice. Then I looked at where I might run all the cabling, and maybe down the stanchions here for the bimini top, and would I go in the side of the boat here, but then I'm a little bit worried that the Genoa sheets might rub on them or get in the way, so I didn't like that. Maybe I could come down this strap, but then it's just a strap. It's not like you could zip tie things to it. Maybe I could go through the back of the boat, transom, but I didn't like that either. So what I settled on was the cables will go down the backstay, down inside this backstay padding, so you won't even see it. And then it'll have 2 outlets right here that'll go in, and it won't interfere with anything, and it'll be pretty out of the way. These are the cable outlets I got that'll allow me to pass the cables through the boat. And then this is an example of what they look like when they're mounted on the boat. I'll just have to play around with what angle works to make sure they're not in the way of anything. And back here in the quarter berth, I have an access hole to grab the wires. I'll come out, go along the wall, and right into where the batteries are. You know, the more I think about it, I think I will just put the solar panel on kind of permanently, because that means every time we go out sailing, we're just not using up our battery. We're just gonna maintain the whole time we're out or charge it instead of running it down. And for the little overnight trips we do, it'll just be nice knowing that we just have unlimited battery because of the solar panel, or that when we're anchored and just hanging out that we can just use everything we want and turn the fans on high. And right now when we're out there, we turn the fans off if we're anchored and we're not in here, but I would like to just leave them more in a way because it keeps it cooler in here in the summer, and so that's good. You know, I don't like to overthink these things. I'd rather sail than try and prep my boat for trips around the world, but I feel pretty good about this, planning it all out and being ready to not have to worry about our power demands while we're out on the water.